If you own a tab, a tag, or a tada, or any other type of RV, then you probably have learned that making mistakes is all part of the game. Hi, I'm Jen Grover, and on this week's episode of Tab Talk, we're shaking it up a bit, and we're going to hear from some of you about some of the mistakes you've made as an RV owner. Stay tuned. My last video was about the top 10 mistakes that tab owners make, and really they could apply to tag owners, to dot owners, or any RV. They're pretty common. So after the response I got from that video, which was tremendous, I thought, wouldn't it be great if other people shared some of the mistakes they made so that we can all learn from them? And guess what? I put out an ask to the community, and a bunch of you responded. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who took the time to record themselves on video with their cell phone or some other camera and send it to me. But more importantly, for your willingness to be humble enough to share what you did wrong and put it out there for the public. It's not easy to do, and I really appreciate it. I've made my own fair share of mistakes, and I'm going to throw a couple of those in this video as well. I'm hoping that after you watch people share their mistakes on video, you'll be willing to share yours in the comments below the video. You'll want to make sure that you stay tuned until the end because I'm going to share a mistake that I made recently at nuCamp that led to me flooding my tab.
So one of our mistakes that we've made before, we have a bad habit of taking the camper keys and laying them on the wheel well. Well, we were about 1,000 miles away from home, about 16-hour drive, and either myself or my husband left them on the wheel well like we always do, except this time we forgot to go back and get them. So if you're driving through Metropolis, Illinois, and you're near the rest stop, our camper keys are somewhere in that area. Luckily, we had our spare pair in our glove box. We always keep a spare, and as soon as we got home, we made a full second set again.
I'd like to thank Jen for letting us into her channel today. The mistake that I first made with my trailer was not being able to monitor my battery properly with the sea level display. It was always reading low because I had the battery switch on, and I might have something on inside the trailer like the fan or even the fridge and the parasitic drain. It was always reading too low. You can see I've got this little fan on connected to the inverter, and on the multimeter is reading 12.06, which in the state of charge is basically telling me that I'm at 50% of my battery and I need to recharge my battery. So I was always turning the battery off, afraid that I was about ready to drain all my power. As soon as I turn the fan off, notice what happens to the multimeter. It starts to move back up towards a rested battery setting. If I let this battery go for a while, it would go back to about 12.47 when it's rested. It might take another 4 or 5 minutes. I'm not going to wait that long. But already at 12.3, I'm back to about 60 to 70% of my battery capacity. So the lesson I learned is you cannot measure a battery that's being charged or a battery that's being discharged. You will always get a false capacity reading on state of charge on a lead acid battery. So measure your battery with your Victron or the multimeter with the battery switch off and no charging coming in.
Hi, Steve and Joyce VANN. We have a 2018 Tab CSS and wanted to tell you about a time that we were headed from a campground to a grassy parking area at a festival. And on our way, we noticed a strange sound, a thump and a rattle, and we're wondering about it. And we discovered later when we got stuck in the grassy area, got out to see what had happened, and the jockey wheel was the lowest part, and it had gotten stuck in the mud and apparently had hit the road earlier. So just a warning, take your jockey wheel off, even if you don't think you need to.
I made a mistake on my first day as a tab owner, And I don't think I'm the only one. I've seen a couple other people make similar mistakes. And it happens when you get frazzled, when you're in the heat of the moment, or when you're so distracted that you're just not paying attention. It was when I brought my tab home, and the first time I was trying to back it in to my backyard, which is very tiny, and accessed via a very narrow alley. And we all know how difficult backing up a new trailer is. Well, I was trying to unhitch and I was having difficulty. What I didn't realize is it's because I had weight forward on the hitch. There were a couple ways I could have dealt with it, but I was confused, I was tired and overwhelmed. And in the mistake of the moment, I pulled forward with my jockey wheel down, which got caught in the grass. So it made a nice rut in the grass. But more importantly, it actually bent the trailer jack. Now, fixing that wasn't too hard. It just is a couple of bolts, actually, I think 3, that you have to remove and then pull the old jack out, put the new jack in. And it wasn't that expensive, less than $50 if I remember correctly. But it's a type of mistake you made when you're overwhelmed.
Hi, I'm Scott, and we own a 2022 320S, and we're actually camping right now, and I had to refill the fresh water tank, and I had a problem. And the problem was that too much air got into the system when I was pumping from the auxiliary tank into the freshwater tank. So when I went inside to reset everything, turned the pump just ran, no pressure on the system. So checked the Nautilus system. I had changed it to dry camp, so I knew that was right. I realized that there was too much air in the system, so I kept cycling the pump to clear the air out. Air got cleared out, pressure resumed, and everything was fine. So that's a lesson I learned here, right on site here today camping. Thanks.
When we first got our camper, we had never had any kind of RV before or towed anything before. We had been tent campers. So a lot of this was new to us. Even with a tag being pretty simple, we still had a lot to learn. I had seen on different sites and videos that it was recommended to get a surge protector. So I went to the store and I bought this little surge protector for the outlets on the inside. And it took me a while before I realized that they were talking about this kind of surge protector that you plug the camper into the electrical hookups at your campsite, and it helps protect the entire camper. Now I know, but just didn't know before.
We were hitching up to travel home. Stephen had put, I believe, the 2 front pads up and possibly one of the back pads. And then he got distracted and started cranking up the jack to get the car.
It was really hard.
Get the ball on the hitch. And it was really, really difficult. And then all of a sudden we realized that one of the pads was still down, and it is really, really difficult to jack up or to crank up that pad once the trailer is hitched to the car. So all 4 pads up before you hitch to the car.
Hi Jen, here's a mistake I made. Even though I had gone on 5 camping trips with my Tab 320 previously and drove 2,500 miles in June out to the rally in Ohio, the last 100 miles, apparently my microwave glass tray decided to fall out and break. Had all those thousands of miles on the camper, never had a problem with the microwave tray, but when I opened the door, when I got to the rally, there it was on the floor and the microwave door was shut, so apparently it popped open and the tray flew out and the door shut. So as soon as I find a replacement, I will make sure that I secure it or remove it before traveling. Thank you.
Another mistake I've made is thinking that I had the trailer coupler latched correctly onto the hitch and ball. When I was taking my tab to nuCamp once, I thought I had it hitched correctly. I had the coupler lock in the coupler and it looked good to go, but it wasn't quite hitched right. And I hit a pothole not far from my house and the trailer actually popped off the ball. Now, thankfully, there was this guy with his landscaping truck right next to me, and he hopped out, picked up the tongue of the tab, and put it back on the ball, and I was good to go.
Hi, Jen and the nuCamp fam. Well, here's just one of many embarrassing mistakes I've made over the last 7 years. I unhooked the camper and put the foot down without putting something under on really soft sand. And the camper immediately started to sink. I dug frantically to try to get underneath it and put a jack. Nothing was working. Finally, it sunk up to the frame. And I had to call the rangers to come and rescue me. So embarrassing. But this giant ranger came and picked the camper up and literally put it back on the ball of the car. Saved. But I could have prevented this by either putting down a really wide board or my handy dandy disc, which would spread the weight out over a sandy surface. So don't do what I did.
So I have driven out of my campsite without plugging in the 7-pin. I've almost run over chocks before because I forgot to take them away. Forgot to put the lock in the hitch. Realized that one before getting too far down the road, so that was good. But we've done all those stupid mistakes, and it's really taught us to stop, go over our checklist, and then do it again. And if both my husband and myself are hitching up the camper, we don't get upset if the other goes back to check the doors, even though we said we just locked the doors, because of those silly little mistakes that you can easily make when you're leaving your campsite.
Want to tell you about tow weight. I'm not going to give you all the charts. There's plenty of information out there. But if you know that you have plenty of tow weight to spare, still beware. When we are towing with our original car, it was struggling up tall mountain extended climbs.
Yeah, the tow weight was 3,500.
And sounds like plenty for a tab. It's not always. But the worst was when we needed a tow by a pickup truck out of a swampy, grassy area with a steep incline at a boondock site. We were able to get in, but we were not able to get out, especially with a front-wheel drive, because the tow weight was weighing the back down and lifting the drive wheels off the muddy grass.
So I have driven out of my campsite without plugging in the 7-pin. I've almost run over chocks before because I forgot to take them away. Forgot to put the lock in the hitch. Realized that one before getting too far down the road, so that was good. But we've done all those stupid mistakes, and it's really taught us to stop, go over our checklist, and then do it again. And if both my husband and myself are hitching up the camper, we don't get upset if the other goes back to check the doors, even though we said we just locked the doors, because of those silly little mistakes that you can easily make when you're leaving your campsite.
This year when I arrived at UCamp, I decided to fill Rocky's outdoor water bowl from the outside shower. I went out, opened the shower hatch, turned the water on, used the pump, filled his bowl, turned the pump off, and closed the hatch. What I didn't realize is that I had not properly turned the faucet all the way off on the shower. So when I woke up the next morning, everything was fine, but I decided I needed to take a shower. So after firing up the Aldi and turning on the pump inside, I realized that my feet were starting to get wet, and it was a lot of water. So immediately I turned off the pump and cleaned up the water. My next task was to find the leak, and I looked everywhere inside, couldn't find it. And then finally, somebody walking by said, "You've got water coming outside of the camper." So, moral of the story, make sure you have the knobs for the faucet for the outside shower completely turned off. I just want to say thanks again to everybody who shared their stories, not only in this video, but I know people are going to share their stories on Facebook. People have shared their stories of mistakes on Facebook before, and we all learn from them. And more importantly, it helps us from taking ourselves too seriously, right? We're all human and we all make mistakes. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.